Are your characters falling flat and readers are just like, nah, so-so about them? Or do you want to write characters that readers are like, oh my God, you have to read this book, it's so good? Because we all know word of mouth is the best advertising tool out there, but you don't create that by just writing meh characters. You create that by creating characters that are really powerful. It's not as easy as it sounds, but I'm going to show you how in this video. These are all lessons that I have learned over the course of my career. I'm a New York Times bestselling author. I've published 87 books in 24 countries. I've sold 8 million copies. And I didn't do that by just sitting on my butt and pumping out any book that I thought of. I really worked hard at every single character that I created, at every single book that I wrote. And it's not easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it, right? It should be hard. It should require you digging a little bit deeper. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. In order to create characters that readers crave and want more of, you have to work a little bit harder. If you want to grab my free ebook on how to create characters that readers really love, the link is down below. But let's get right into creating characters that readers crave more of. The number one thing, letter C, is connection. That is so key. I cannot stress that enough. Connection is what makes people care about a book. I've read plenty of books that I just didn't connect with, and I didn't care about the characters that much. In fact, I just read a book where the plot was something that was kind of like going back in time thing, which was okay. I totally have no problem with that. I like a wide variety of plots. But this one, they went back in time so many times and made the same mistakes that I didn't care about that anymore. Like I skipped, I think 50 or 60 pages of that book. And then I just got to the end so I could see how it turned out because I did want to know how they solved the mystery. You don't want to create that book. You want to create the kind of book that makes people talk about it. Like when I talk about a book on this channel, it's because I really loved it. If I don't talk about it and I read it, I didn't really love it. Now, I'm not going to bash any authors on here. That's not my intent at all because everybody worked really hard to write their book. But if I love a book, I'm definitely going to share it with you guys because I want you to try to hold yourself to this standard of these authors that are amazing. That's why I'm talking about some of these books. So that comes from connection. I've talked about Chuck Wendig a couple times on this channel. He writes ginormous books, like ginormous. Normally, I wouldn't have the time to read a book that is 780 pages long. That's a pretty long book, a couple 100,000 words easily. But I read it and stuck with it and ordered the sequel and ordered a couple other of his books that are just as long because I was so connected to these characters. I couldn't wait to see how it turned out. In particular, Wanderers was part of a 2-book series with both books being just as long. And I ordered the sequel before I even finished the first one. That's how much I connected with these characters and cared about them. You don't have to have a 780-page book to do that. I've read plenty of books that are shorter, faster paced that I really connected with the characters too. Connection happens from commonality. When I feel things that these characters feel, I feel connected to them, even if I'm not in the same situation. Wanderers is a great example of that. Wanderers is about like this pandemic that takes over the country where people become zombies, and the main character in the beginning of this book is a teenage girl. Not a teenage girl with a younger sister who's a zombie. I don't connect to the particular plot point per se, but I connect to the fact that she is worried about her family and she is doing whatever it takes to protect them. That is a common thread that we can all connect with. That's the thing that I'm talking about with building commonality. It's not necessarily the plot, it is the emotion that is at the core of the plot that you want to build. So how are you creating characters that are facing challenges that we connect with? That's what you're looking for. Are your characters realistic? Meaning they have flaws. They have issues. They don't make the right decision every single time. They do stupid things. They do smart things. They have things that are important to them and they take risks and then they also get afraid. All of those things are part of what makes up the human condition. You want your characters to come across as real on the page. One of the mistakes that I see a lot of people do is they don't make their characters have enough flaws or conflicts or issues. They just make these people that are a little too nice to be believed. And that's kind of sus, right? Like, have you ever had that neighbor that was like super sweet and baked pies for everybody in the neighborhood and had the perfect car and had the perfect house? You just know that person's probably a serial killer, right? Those are the people that turn out to have bodies in their backyard. So you want to make them realistic, where they have hopes and fears and insecurities and anxieties and issues. That's what makes us relate to them. The characters also need to be active in the plot, which means they do stuff. I can't tell you how many books I have read where characters are just sitting there talking and nothing's happening. There is no plot advancement. They have to take action. We like people that take action in their lives. And if they take an action and then nothing happens because of it, and there is no fallout, and there is no new information revealed, and it's just, oh, he asked a question and nobody knew the answer, and so he went home. That's not really taking action. The character actually needs to do stuff and have fallout from that stuff. That's what raises the stakes. When your character decides to knock on the door of the person they think is their long-lost mother, and a stranger opens the door and tries to shoot them, hey, that's fallout, right? That creates tension and that creates rising stakes. And then that makes the reader say, well, where is his mother? Why is this guy shooting at him? Is he going to be okay? All of this stuff. That creates that worry in the reader's gut. Your character needs to have some kind of action that they are taking toward their goal in every single solitary scene in the book. They don't just sit around and talk about stuff. That is something that Donald Moss, in writing the breakout novel, calls tea scenes, where people are just sitting there drinking tea, talking about stuff. I don't know how often you sit there and watch other people talk about mundane things while they're drinking tea, but you know it's pretty boring, right? Now, if at the same time they're slipping a note to the waitress that says help, that's exciting. That's not just a tea scene. That's taking action towards the plot, right? So the character has to be doing stuff, not just talking about it. Your character also needs to be vulnerable. And I'm not just talking about vulnerable when they say, I feel scared right now. I'm talking about having weaknesses that make them vulnerable as well. For instance, my husband and I are watching season 2 of Sweet Tooth right now. It's actually a way better show than I expected it to be. The trailer was not well done, in my opinion. It didn't really express the show, but that's neither here nor there. I'm not a trailer expert. But in season 2 of Sweet Tooth, Big Man, who is one of the main characters, has clearly got a past that he doesn't want to talk about. And what he tends to do when he is confronted with big emotional decisions is run. And that happens in episode after episode after episode. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm not going to deal with that. That's a weakness and a vulnerability in him, because we see that harming him and creating more chaos, more hurt, more insecurity, more anxiousness, more self-recrimination in his life. Every time he runs away from the people that he's supposed to help, we see that hurting him. Right? Because if you run away from your wife and baby that need you, that will leave you with some serious guilt issues. And if you run away from the kid you're trying to help, instead of helping him, you're going to have even more guilt. So that's a vulnerability in him when he is confronted with things that he doesn't know how to handle or that make him face these demons in his past. It makes him want to run. They also have to be gradually vulnerable throughout the book. I don't know how many new people you've met in the last couple of months, but how many of them said, I feel so guilty about not being there when my mom was dying, like I really should have done that. Like, they don't tell you those things right at the beginning. It takes time as we get to know the characters and they open up more and they are faced with challenges that force them to open up, that they become more vulnerable. Going back to that Sweet Tooth example, Big Man gradually begins to talk about his past with the other characters as he begins to trust them, as he begins to trust himself, and as he begins to, and this is key, realize that if he doesn't become more vulnerable, he will never achieve his goal of rescuing his wife and child. Like, it's all tied in together. So he has to do these things in order to get to where he wants to go. That's what a character chart and a plot chart are all about. Is the character really learning, I gotta deal with this crap if I want to achieve my goal. I can't just keep going through life the way I always have. I'm not gonna get where I need to go that way. And finally, there needs to be emotion. Emotion is something I talk about constantly on this channel because I see far too little of it on the page. And I get it. It is not easy to write emotion. It means showing instead of telling. It means digging deep into your own gut and saying, okay, am I ready to put these feelings of fear and insecurity on the page? Am I ready to really show what it feels like when you're afraid you're going to lose somebody you love? Those are the things that we don't like to think about or talk about. But when you put those on the page, the character becomes somebody that we can connect with, right? See how it goes together? In Wanderers, Shayna is trying to protect her sister, and she cares so much about her that she risks her own life multiple times, and she fights tooth and nail to protect her sister. Even though I do not understand what it's like to have a little sister that becomes a zombie, I know what it's like to be afraid to lose somebody you love, to see their life in peril. And that is the emotion that I connect with. And because Chuck Wendig did such a good job of really showing Shayna's emotions and her need to protect her sister and her fear of not being there for her sister, her fear of letting her sister down, because Chuck Wendig did such a good job about that, I cared so much that I read 1,400 pages. And now I'm reading his next book too. I really, really cared about seeing it work out for them. So that emotion is the most important thing you have to get across. How do you create that? Well, you can grab my handout, which is free and linked below, where you can read a lot of really, really good fiction and analyze the heck out of it, and then really come back and see with a self-critical eye, am I doing that on the page? Could I dig a little deeper? Could I stop telling so much and show a little bit more? Those are all keys to how you get that across on the page. And if you want to really see me dig deep into a scene and show you exactly how I did it with all of the different pieces of a scene, this video right here will tell you. That's what I want you to do. Oh, besides subscribe and like, I keep forgetting to mention that. Don't forget, I want you to subscribe and like and comment down below. But I want you to dig deeper and create these characters that readers crave. Because when they crave the characters, they're going to crave your next book. And if you're trying to build a career in a very competitive industry, that's the key. Creating characters that readers can't stop thinking about. Come back for more videos or join one of our live streams or just ask a question down below. And I am super happy to help you write a really incredible book. And I'll see you on the other side of the page.